Hello, welcome back to the Mr. Arsenal podcast with myself, and as you can see, James Rowe has joined me. We are doing another World Cup, I won't say preview, it's the halfway, but the discussion point where we've got past group stages, we've had our last 60, we know the quarterfinalists now, and everyone's possible routes to their final in a couple of weeks, literally in 2 weeks' time, basically. Yeah, it's been an interesting one, hasn't it, James, in terms of quality hasn't been there like it usually is at previous World Cups. With certain teams, there's some shock exits. We can say that with a couple of nations that were going into the tournament perceived as favourites or amongst the favourites to win this competition, and a few shocks along the way in terms of either one-off results or a said team we'll get into. We will probably more likely touch on at the start of this or at some point during this show. Against all the odds, are in a quarterfinal when no one expected to, under a new manager as well. A lot's been going on recently with the previous regime of that country as well. We're going to get into soon. But what have you made of this World Cup so far? Has it exceeded your expectations in terms of certain countries or a certain player or and tournament overall?
Well, Ryan, great to be speaking again, and I hope that everybody watching tonight has enjoyed the World Cup so far. With this being my 9th World Cup, I've come to realise that each World Cup has its own rhythm. There's always surprise results. You've got to enjoy the moment. You know, for people saying before the tournament started, I'm not going to watch, and we had that podcast where we encouraged people to look at the football because it's a football tournament. And you're going to see things that will surprise you, and you're going to make new discoveries. And I've enjoyed it. I'm delighted for Morocco. I really am, because there's obviously a big Moroccan community in Amsterdam, as there is in Brussels, as there is in France, and obviously in their home country. And they've just done really well. And, to have a manager that's Moroccan, that knows and understands them as individuals and as a collective, I think it's really made the difference. And I think they've got a great chance against Portugal. I think it's far too easy to say that the status quo is going to end up in the last four, and that's the way it is, because each tournament always has a team that reaches the semi-final, which nobody expects. In terms of 2018, I don't think nobody expected England nor Croatia to reach the last four. If you look at 2014, the Netherlands, for example, 2010 with Uruguay, 2006 with Portugal, and I believe that Morocco will reach the last four. And I think that it's going to be really, really interesting. I think it's been a good World Cup for national teams that arrange the things how they want them to be done. This isn't a market where you can go out and spend millions of euros on a star striker. You've got to find him, you've got to scout him, and you've got to find him. And that's the cleverness involved in national team management. And I've enjoyed it so far. I thought with Argentina, with losing to Saudi Arabia, the way Saudi Arabia deserved to win that game, how they all became household names overnight. If anyone's got a spare 5 minutes, try to catch the halftime team talk from Hervé Renard.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. I have seen that straight away. I saw that.
And the translator translating from English to Arabic, I hope that man gets a huge raise at the end of this tournament. I hope he gets a massive raise in his salary, because it's one thing being able to translate word for word, but it's another thing being able to convey the passion upon which somebody's telling you something. So I think an excellent job. I've been very impressed with Brazil. In the Netherlands here, hope and expectation is building ahead of Friday. Van Gaal was already saying before the tournament kicked off, we're here to win it. That was echoed by Andries Noppert, who stated in his media commitments that you go to a tournament to win it, not just to participate. Otherwise, what's the point in turning up? You know, he's as confident as ever. And I was very proud when I watched him in the opening game for the Netherlands, because I remember that September day when I spoke to him, Ryan, when he was playing for FC Dordrecht in the Dutch First Division. Neither of us that day in September 2020 thought that he would play in the starting lineup for the Netherlands at the next World Cup. And that's exactly what's happened. It's the same with Denzel Dumfries. I remember speaking to Arsenal Fan TV after Arsenal Cardiff, I believe in 2019, if my memory serves me rightly. And
Give or take,
I was asked
yeah,
by
it
Robbie,
was. It would have been 19, yeah, because
2019 Cardiff at the midweek game in January.
Yeah.
And I remember being asked by Robbie, he said, "You live in the Netherlands, James. Is there any upcoming players that we should keep an eye on?" And I mentioned Denzel Dumfries back then. This is 3.5 years ago. And I said that he's come up the traditional way. Sparta Rotterdam, Heerenveen, and now Inter Milan. You know, it's a massive part of that defence. I think Friday's going to be very, very interesting to see how it goes. I'm not being biased because I live in the Netherlands and have done for almost 2 decades, but I believe that they will win through against Argentina, because I'm a firm believer, Ryan, that to win a World Cup, whether you are Marcello Lippi, Mario Zagallo, Vicente Del Bosque, whether you are Luis Felipe Scolari, you've got to do something tactically to get yourself through another round in that tournament, whether that's substitutions, formation, tweaking little things. And I don't believe that Scolari is capable of that with Argentina. I think that Van Gaal's got something up his sleeve, and I don't think that Lionel Scaloni is going to be able to counteract that. And Van Dijk was saying in the Dutch press conference that it's not the Netherlands against Messi, it's the Netherlands against Argentina. And I've been saying to a lot of friends and colleagues as well, Ryan, that I don't believe for a second that this Argentina team is better than the one 8 years ago that reached the final and lost.
The final, yeah.
I don't believe that for a second, and nobody can tell me that is the case, because I don't believe them. If you with the likes of Mascherano, with the likes of Sergio Romero, Kun Agüero, and most importantly, the manager, Alejandro Sabella, who's sadly no longer with us. The man does not get the credit he deserves. Really, because to get Argentina to that World Cup final in Brazil was fantastic. And they had amazing chances to win that final. And they didn't, which is a massive shame. But I think Friday's going to be really, really interesting. I think as well with England-France, we have a chance. But there again, if Deschamps has been around the block and started his career managing Monaco, where in his early days, he reaches the Champions League final, and he's up against Gareth Southgate, who's managed Middlesbrough, got relegated with Middlesbrough, and takes the England under-21 job and then the full job. It's not just Mbappe, it's not just Giroud. I cannot believe for the life of me how Benjamin Pavard does not get a start in that team. I just don't get it. And if I am Gareth Southgate and Jules Koundé is playing on Saturday night, I go after him. The same way I go after Tuchemi in the midfield, because their midfield has not been tested. And I think
we all know about Rubio. He has a reputation as a hot head. If you can get under his skin, you've won a battle there. That'd
exactly.
Be huge.
Exactly. And I think with Brazil, it's wonderful. I saw a clip where the legend that is Tim Vickery was stating that this will be Tite's last tournament for Brazil. He's stepping down after this tournament. And obviously the situation regarding Pelé, where we wish him, our sincere best wishes to him and his family. But the greatest of all time pulls through, because for all the opinions and for all the things that we do, if it wasn't for Pelé, we wouldn't be talking now, I don't think. We certainly wouldn't be talking about a World Cup. If he's
not in the same
he's the
way. No,
he's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one that blazed the trail for the rest. So as much as people talk about Cristiano, and as much as they talk about Lionel Messi, Pele, he did that all before. He did that all before
and as a kid as well.
Yeah,
Let's not forget that.
yeah. In a time when only 16 teams played in a World Cup, and it was the best 16 teams. You didn't have any cannon fodder. You didn't have any extra games. You go and you stand and you fight and you win. And I hope that his family and he pulls through and everything's okay. And I hope that he gets to see Brazil get that 6th star on their shirt and win it, because they look fantastic. They really do. You know, as you said when we spoke of the tournament, Ryan, you said that they look as good as they've ever looked since they've won it. And I think it's a great sign. And I think that they've just got to keep their head, because they've been knocked out by European opposition every single time since 2002. And Friday afternoon is going to be really difficult against a country of 4 million people that never say die. They do not I don't think Croatia know the meaning of the word give up, because they don't. So it's going to be really interesting on Friday afternoon.
And I think Croatia's like the second oldest squad in the overall in all the teams that entered this competition this year time round. But look at the players they have: Modric, Kovacic, Perisic, Champions League winners, experienced players off the helm that have played at the highest level, have played these big games. So it's not like it's a young Croatia team that it's wet behind the ear basically and doesn't know. There's never experienced this sort of big game before. They're seasoned pros here. These are. And they want to go one step further. They got so close 4 years ago against all the odds, like you mentioned before. Against all the odds, they got to the semi-final and then knocked us at England out. Got to the final, and we've been honest at the time. France being the better team in the not just in the tournament but as a whole, had the more rounded squad at the time. Came to fruition and they won the World Cup. And Croatia have always been, when they have these generational squads, they always are the needy men, the bridesmaid. They want to get that hoodoo off their back themselves. And like you mentioned about since Brazil won the World Cup, every time they've knocked out, was it 2006? They got knocked out by France, Netherlands, I believe it was, 4 years late, I believe.
Yeah, 2010, I think.
Yeah.
I think Van Marwijk himself couldn't believe it. And Sneijder with a header of all goals, you know, and it's a massive challenge for them on Friday. I know that people are getting a little bit carried away with a potential Brazil-Argentina semi-final, and I don't think we would have seen such a matchup since 1990 when Argentina knocked them out through Claudio Caniggia. And but we just have to take it one game at a time. We just have to and just enjoy it as well. I mean, Portugal yesterday. There's Fernando Santos gets a bad rep. I interviewed one of his former assistants at Sporting Lisbon, João Oroso, and I asked him. I said, "What are the qualities of Fernando Santos?" And he said, "James, he said the clarity in terms of delegation, how he leaves certain facets of coaching to specific coaches." And I can't believe the likes of BBC writing articles of the man that nobody wants. You can't tell me that if Portugal reached the final, that he's not going to play any part in it. And I wouldn't put it past Portugal that if they do reach the final, what are people going to say if he scores the winning goal? What are they going to say then? Because then he goes down in history as literally the greatest of all time. You know, I think if he was to score the winner for Portugal in a World Cup final, I think he would eclipse Eusebio. I think in such a setting, you know, to be the man that delivers that first World Cup title for Portugal. And I just think that some of the writing's been a little bit premature. I mean, it's not just a case of me having had certain articles on BBC and having helped them in the past and not having been approached during this World Cup. But I think it's really important to say about the history of what's gone before. Like, for example, Morocco being the first Arabic country to reach the last 8, but also Cameroon reached the last 8. So did Senegal, and not to forget that, in 2002 and 1990 respectively. So it's the next 4 games that are going to be really, really interesting. And I hope people enjoy them. And very exciting.
Yeah, that's the thing. Going back to briefly, just touch on going back to Brazil, Croatia, and if Morocco has shown anything in this tournament, that nothing's won on just what you see in the visual. It's literally on the pitch. It's not an individual thing. It's a collective. They've come together, and like I said it before, the manager they've got, he's only been in charge for 6 games. They've only conceded 1 goal, so they're not. It's not exactly. In terms of Morocco versus Portugal, that's going to be a breeze. And we're seeing today, little Rodri from Man City, who's obviously was part of that squad last night for Spain and got knocked out. The bitterness towards Morocco from Rodri himself about how Morocco bringing nothing to this tournament. I'm like, well, they've knocked you out for a start on penalties.
Yeah, exactly.
Took you all the way. They kept a clean sheet. They held on. They worked as a team.
Yeah.
But they've got to that point anyway. Even if they had lost last night, they got to a point that you don't get through the group stages if you're not doing your job right. Period. Especially the group they're in.
Exactly. And if you look at the start of their journey, the national anthem against Belgium, I had the volume up. It was like the whole of Morocco was singing. From Rabat to Casablanca to Fez, everybody's singing as if it's the last hour of their lives. And you see that
I want to say another
the substitutions that he made as well.
Another massive contribution is that every game they play, it sounds like a home game because it's a majority Moroccan fans in the stadiums. And again, players will feed off that, and you're getting that extra, 10, 20, whatever percent. You're getting that bit extra out of the team because they're feeling like, well, is that neutral for us? It feels like a home game, so we're gonna play like it's a home game. And again, to say again, they've bought nothing. They've got arguably the best defence in the competition.
Yes,
they're winning games, and then they took them to penalties last night, Morocco. Yeah. And out of the 2 teams, let's be honest, that Spanish team had more experience in a penalty shootout situation. That in that moment, that pressure, not just not from an international point, in general for clubs, etc. Yes, Morocco have Hakimi, Ziyech, and
Moussouari.
Yeah. But look at the penalty takers. Apart from Hakimi and Ziyech, these are young kids, effectively younglings, basically, compared to the Spanish lot. Yeah. Busquets, for example, the only survivor. From when Spain won the World Cup, he missed a pen. Spain had an opportunity to do what Croatia did 24 hours prior and show their superiority and their wisdom of that moment, and they didn't take it, and Morocco did. So the better team won in that case, and deservedly got through. And just to touch on Hakimi again, he's a great fullback. You don't play again. He was at Inter Milan, massive reputation.
Yeah,
was linked to Arsenal at one point at the time before he went to PSG.
Yeah,
I know they had a bit of a buffer in that moment, but to have the bottle to take the penalty the way he did, is nothing short of. Again, World Cup wise, it's nothing short of outstanding because that could have gone horribly wrong, and it could have. And in that moment, it could maybe would have switched, but to have the bottle to Panenka a penalty that obviously would have sent them through, but if he missed it, it would have looked embarrassing.
Yeah, and they might have had another chance, but it's the pride, because I think this is what this World Cup has shown, Brian. It's pride, that you've got players playing for their country, playing for their emblem, singing their national anthem. We live in a society where nationalism is looked upon as a dirty word, but you cannot you cannot change what you are. Like, for example, in my case, I speak native level of Dutch where people can't tell the difference. If I start speaking in Dutch, they think I'm Dutch, and then when I say no, I'm British, they're like, what? And but it's still me remembering what I am. It's like, for example, with I have a now like a permit card living here because of Brexit, and all my Dutch colleagues and friends, they were like, "Have you not got a Dutch passport?" I was like, "No," and they said, "Oh, why not?" I said, "Because I'm not Dutch." I said, "I'm British." I said, "I was born in London." I said, "I made a deliberate choice as a young man to come and live in this country." I said, "I am what I am," and But you see, with international football, you see that players will change nationality. I'm not being picked by one team, I will go to another. And I think with the Moroccan team, I was delighted for Abdel Salah Koundala as well, the number 9. He come on against Belgium, and although he didn't score, he was in there. He was keeping possession. He was making sure that corners were won or throw-ins were won. And he came from a Moroccan city called Safi, Ryan. So he's not from Rabat. He's not from Casablanca. He's not from Fez. He's from a place called Safi. And I interviewed a former teammate of his when he played for Arlesund in Norway. And he said that when he arrived, he was very nervous. And we even thought ourselves, who have we got here? Couldn't hit the proverbial cows behind with a banjo, as they say. But when he started to get the confidence, when he started to be comfortable, he started to score goal after goal after goal. And he was sold to a Chinese club. I think they made a 20 million Norwegian kroner profit on him. And they've done really well. And even their manager's a winner. It's not a fluke. He's won the Moroccan league. He's won it twice with 2 different teams, and he's also won the Qatari league. And people will say, "Oh, it's not the Premier League. Oh, it's not La Liga." But you've still got to be able to win. You've still got to be able to win. It's not Championship manager. And I think they've got an amazing.
Graham Potter had to go abroad to learn his trade, to build his reputation up, and then he came over. And again, when he did come over, it was, with all due respect, I don't mean to sound disrespectful here, but when he came over from Ottersons, it was to Brighton to further prove his point that he can maintain and grow as a manager at the highest level. He went from where he was in Ottersons and reached a point where the ceiling had been hit, and he wanted to try his hand in the Premier League or just in England in general.
Yeah.
And he's proved himself to the point now he is not only sought after in most England fans' minds as a potential England manager down the line, potentially at this point, even at this point, but obviously now he took the job at Chelsea. That's going to be probably down the line at some point later.
Yeah.
But he's now got a top job, one of the big 6 clubs. And he's the manager of that club, basically, in terms of Chelsea. We know there's a new regime and all that, but still, that's a big deal.
Absolutely. And when I spoke to him, Ryan, when he was manager of Östersunds, he harboured ambitions of taking Östersunds into the Champions League. He wasn't looking for a move. And when I spoke to him, they'd beaten us. And he said, that we knew that the derby defeat at Arsenal would be down, and not getting the second goal in the home leg really cost us. But he even said his family are happy in Sweden. Sweden had given so much to them as a family, and he's done a fantastic job to be in the position that he's in. And it just goes to show, if you take the long way round and you start at the bottom and you build up, you can have a lot more longevity. I mean, Steven Gerrard is an amazing footballer, was an amazing footballer, but his management career now, where does he go? Where does he, you start with one of the biggest clubs in Scotland. That's where you start. Normally, I think Alex Ferguson, I believe, was at, St Mirren, I believe.
St Mirren
and then Aberdeen. And then Aberdeen. And then you build, and he goes on to become the greatest British football manager of all time. So Bobby Robson starts off at Ipswich. And I mean, it just goes to show what a legend Sir Bobby Robson is, because nobody else has done what he's done. To have success at PSV, to have success at Barcelona, FC Porto, nobody else has done that. Only he could do that. I mean, I'd love to see it happen again. Nothing would please me more to see that happen to a manager in the future. And like with the likes of Ferguson, when he was saying he was offered the Barcelona job, he was offered the Inter Milan job, but he knew how important language is and getting your message across, because you can be the greatest manager in the world, Ryan, but if you can't get your message across, you got no chance. If you can't communicate clearly to players what you want them to do, you got no chance. And Ferguson was fully aware of that. And I think if you look at the last 8 managers of the World Cup, they're all from their respective country. So that should be a marker now. And that should be proof, if you like, that there is no need to go outside. We can sort our own problems out. We can get our own house in order. And it incentivizes the next generation. I mean, you think with Morocco and with what Walid Regragui has done, how many managers in Morocco is he now giving an incentive to? Saying, if I can do it, you can do it.
Exactly. Inspiration is the key then. Inspiration.
All about. And so therefore what Morocco are doing, it's not just a sporting achievement, they're also putting a base down to continue in future. And you touched on Spain, obviously having a Spanish partner like I do. We have the Spanish news on here, and I was charmed by Morocco, and she joked with me last night that if Morocco win, I don't get any dinner. But it's just a joke. But obviously listening to Spanish news and being competent in Spanish as well, Ryan, I was aware that Luis Enrique didn't know what his best team was. And that's not a good starter for 10, is it? When you go to a World Cup, you should know for 80%, this is my best team. And then if people get injured or suspended, these are the replacements. And Luis Enrique didn't know that. It was unlucky with Jose Gaya, who got injured on the eve of the tournament. He's a brilliant footballer. To not take Aspas or Borja Mayoral of Betis and Celta Vigo respectively leaves you scratching your head. And also as well, his daughter is dating Ferran Torres, which that's got to be strange. He's in the squad, he plays, but it's the same with Danny Blind being the assistant of the Netherlands.
And his son playing still, yeah.
And his son playing. And there was a great quote from a former Dutch footballer, René van Gijp, who said that he joked in a Dutch funny way, and it was quite funny. He said on like a football talk show, he said, do you think when they're at breakfast in Qatar that Van Gaal turns to Danny Blind and says, what are we going to do about the left back then? Because, and what are we going to do about him? Should we drop him? What do you reckon to that? But, Edgar Davids has been taken alongside Blind and Flanshoek, who I've spoken to before. But as I've said on this podcast before and on this channel before, Ryan, assistant coaches, they don't just put the cones out and give out the bibs. The role of an assistant coach is to provoke the manager into a different way of thinking. And if you don't do that, you leave your manager on your own. And that's what you've not got to do. So I think that, Daley Blind played on Christian Pulisic in the opening minutes of the game against the United States. If he puts the ball away, it would have been a completely different game. So they've got to be careful against Argentina and against Lionel Messi. I think if Angel Di Maria starts, I think they're a completely different beast. I believe if Di Maria would have started in 2014, Argentina would have that third star above their shirts. But it will be very interesting on Friday. And, Van Gaal also, he's still in the job as Dutch manager up until New Year's Eve. And then Ronald Koeman takes over on New Year's Day. He's been asked about maybe taking the Belgium job. And you know, as I said before, we had a show on the eve of the tournament. Van Gaal is without doubt arguably the greatest Dutch manager of his generation. There's no doubt about that. But at 71, with your health comes first. You know, he does love his wife. He really does. He really does. You know, they've been so good together. And you would think, as a 71-year-old man that's achieved everything, if you win the ultimate, surely that's a sign to retire. But I don't know. I think if Belgium, if they go in quick, he might say yes. But first and foremost, he's the manager of the Netherlands. He wants to win that cup. He wants to eclipse Rinus Michels, and who won in Euro '88 with the Netherlands in the European Championships. And obviously, if Van Gaal does win it, he will do that. So it's very interesting to see how it happens. And as Van Gaal says, only 3 more games to go.
Yeah, and touching on Van Gaal and how he's received throughout the world, there was a press conference, I think it was before the second game of the groups, and there was that Senegalese reporter. He said, I'm just starting, I don't question anything about the game. I'm just starting out in my career as a journalist, but I just want to say thank you for being such a great manager and such a great coach, person in general. What you've done for the game itself is remarkable, and I just wanted to say thank you, and that was it. And Van Gaal's response was, "If I could hug you now, I would." And at the end, obviously, there's a video of him both saying, "Come over here,"
yeah,
and hugging the guy, and basically saying, "Thank you for them kind words."
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a character. I mean, he really is. I mean, I've been very fortunate to speak to Frans Hoek, who obviously is his goalkeeping coach since their days at Ajax together. I don't know if I will ever speak to Van Gaal in future myself. It would be a wonderful honour to interview him in his mother tongue. He's very charmed by people that speak foreign languages, especially his own. So I don't know if that will stand me in good stead. But he's I wonder if he thinks to himself in Qatar now, the very first job that he went for was at Odyssey. He wanted that managerial job. And he was prepared meticulously. He had like folders and, all the different reference points. And the chairman of ASA at the time and the board, they were so taken aback by his preparation and what he was going to do and what he wanted to do, that they would have, they said that as impressed as we were, part of us thought to ourselves, what are we going to let ourselves in for if we give him this job? And I'm sure, there must be part of Van Gaal sitting in his room in Qatar now that thinks he didn't get the old ESA job all them years ago, but should he win the ultimate, not just because of winning the ultimate and winning the World Cup, but the career that he's had. He was supposed to be Alex Ferguson's replacement when Ferguson was originally due to retire in 2003. He's had an amazing managerial career. He's done so much, and he's just a fantastic character. Never got on with the greatest of all time, Johan Cruyff. They didn't always see eye to eye, and obviously Cruyff is no longer with us. But he would be very interesting if he was, what he would say about the current Dutch team under Van Gaal's tutelage, because to call him back for the third time within 20 years, as I said before we spoke before the World Cup, how would history judge him? Well, should they go out on Friday, that's of the three World Cup campaigns, he didn't qualify for the first one. Second one, he gets to the semi-final. Third one, he gets to the quarter-final. So how will history judge him? It's a fascinating aspect, and I just hope that he enjoys it as well. And I just hope as well that as much as we miss him, you've got, as they say in Dutch, if you translate it into English, you've got to enjoy your older days. You've got to enjoy it. You're not going to be around forever. enjoy them with family, friends, your loved ones. But I suppose it's a little bit like Dick Advocaat, who's just taken the job at ADO Den Haag. Obviously living in The Hague helps. He's from The Hague, and his wife told him you can't go too far away. There are certain managers where they can't give it up as much as they try.
Whereas, I thought we retired. I heard about this. I was like, I swear he retired like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
After Sunderland debacle, and he kept popping up every now and then.
Well, it would be a fairy book. It would be a fairy tale ending to a fairy tale career. It really would. Ardo they're in trouble. I think talk of promotion is far too premature. But if he could get them back to the Eredivisie, it would be a special achievement. As I say, his wife didn't want him to go too far away. Obviously living in The Hague, it's on your doorstep. That's why he turned down national team jobs and certain managerial jobs. But it's something that Van Marwijk should have done with Go Ahead Eagles many years ago. Years ago, Go Ahead Eagles before. I believe it was the aftermath of Erik ten Hag leaving, where they were struggling, and he could have stepped in and tried to help save them from relegation, and he didn't, and they subsequently went down. But as I've learned speaking to many players and managers, Ryan, you can have dreams and ambitions, but you can't plan a career. No. You really can't. Timing is so important. I mean, I'm sure Arsenal fans watching this show will know that Bobby Robson was supposed to be the successor to Bruce Rioch, and everything was signed, sealed, and delivered. And the chairman of Porto wouldn't let him go. Other than that, if he had have arrived at Arsenal, we would have never known who Arsene Wenger was. So there you see the timing of it, and I'm sure Sir Bobby would have done an amazing job at Arsenal. There's no doubt about that. But just goes to show the timing in football.
No, 100. Again, I've got to agree with 100% there. And again, here in the UK, in terms of the UK media, it's sort of, in terms of obviously when it was like that, when the quarterfinals were starting to unfold, and obviously Holland gone through against USA and Argentina following that late on that night, it's sort of put across, not so many words, but basically, is Argentina in the semi-final? They've already written off Holland. But again, Argentina v Holland in the World Cup, there's history there. Be it the final or the quarterfinals of France '98 with the famous Bergkamp goal, again, one of my favourite goals, arguably my favourite goal of all time. So there is history there, and they both, as you say, want. Argentina want the third star. Holland want that one star. They want to. They don't want to get over that line again. Like Croatia, they don't want to be the bridesmaid. They want to be the best, and it would be, like you say, the fairy tale ending for Van Gaal, with everything that's going on in his personal life, with his health and all that. Yeah. For him to not just obviously win this Friday night. It's Friday night, isn't it? When you play, when Holland play, not just winning that game, but then go to semi-final, win that semi-final, get to the final on December 18th, and go, right, we're here now.
Yeah.
No matter who they get on the other side of the draw coming to the final with them, we don't fear no one. We've got young players like Cody Gakpo, who we've mentioned before, or the young lad from PSV, the other young lad from PSV, Xavi Hernandez. Simons, that's it, Xavi Simons.
Xavi Simons, yeah.
Young, hungry players, and it would be an achievement beyond anything else, in my opinion, for such a young team with a bit of experience, obviously with Danny Blind and all that, and in the squad, to go ahead and, against all the odds, get to that final and win it. And I know that obviously if they were to get to the semi-final, they'd have to play potentially Brazil or Croatia. But to win these sort of tournaments, you've got to go against in teams.
Absolutely.
Full stop. You can't just get there on an easy route and hope all the big guns get knocked out. I know a few have, and we'll get onto them in a second. In Germany and Belgium and all that. But
it will be very, very interesting to see how it goes, Ryan. And if they're going to attempt a World Cup final for the fourth time, the first time Willem van Hanegem also said that they didn't just want to beat the Germans, they wanted to humiliate them. And they forgot to win a football match. The second time, 4 years later, under Argentinian dictatorship, players who played in that game say by their own admission, if we had have won and they hit the post through Lensenbrink, they would never have got out alive. And then the 2010, where, I mean, I remember watching the post-match interview with Bert van Marwijk after the win against Uruguay, and what he said, and I'll translate it into English now for the viewers: to stop Spain, we have to kick Spain. And when I heard him say that, I turned to, I believe I was watching the game with my mother because I was in England at the time, just visiting. And I turned to my mother, I said, no, I said, that's it, they won't win the final. And I remember taking phone calls from friends on the day of the final, you know, in the Netherlands, of, what's going to happen today, James? And I gave a prediction of 1-0 Spain, but my prediction was David Villa to score, not Andres Iniesta. And they were like, "Oh, James, can't believe you said that." And I said, "Look, I said nothing would please me more." I said, but you know, when I heard that Van Marwijk say that, then I just thought, no, if you just play your natural game, and since then as well, Wesley Sneijder said that all the games in that tournament, everybody was fine up until the final, when he looked around that dressing room as they were about to go out, and everybody looked as white as a sheet. Everybody looked as white as a sheet. And it just goes to show, and it will be a fantastic achievement, but one game at a time, and it'll be very interesting days ahead. Very exciting as well.
The reason I say it, because obviously I just mentioned before Van Gaal, his health and all that, that would be the ultimate. I think nothing would ever better that achievement, because after being diagnosed this year with the return of the cancer that he's receiving treatment for, instead of just stepping down at the time, he's the ultimate professional in terms of, no, I can't let these people down. I've come this far, World Cup. I need to finish this job. And then about New Year's Eve, that'd be my final day, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
I think everything he's going through off the pitch in terms of up to this point, up to this tournament got underway this year. If Holland were to go on and win the World Cup, as I say, I don't think there'll be ever a better achievement from any manager for any other future World Cup winners, because solely based on that he's, I won't say he's obviously he's still receiving treatment. He's receiving treatment for a deadly disease, and taking on the responsibility of all these men as well. And
it's the drive the man has.
Yeah, and he can't knock him for that. I mean, Man United fans have their opinions on Van Gaal, the style of football that he brought to United at the time. He delivered them a trophy. Like it or not, United fans, like in 2 years, in the 2 seasons he was there, he delivered you an FA Cup, and he's still treated in the way he was treated. And the fact if you look back at the press conference when United won the FA Cup, against Palace 2-1, I believe it was, the way his demeanour was, he already knew, no matter what, win, lose, or whatever, he could have won that final comfortably 4-5-0. Could have done. Either way, he's won it either way. But he knew he wasn't going to be there much longer. And for someone so vastly experienced, of someone that's achieved so much in his career, I just found that very distasteful. I'm a neutral. I'm not even a Man United fan. And it's just like they didn't have all the ways to treat someone that were a period of a human being. It's just that weren't the way to go. And it's again kudos to him that he's obviously dusting himself down. He took a bit of time out. He's come back, and then again another setback in amongst all that, he's had a setback of himself this year, and he's still ploughed on. He's still been the professional. The drive, as you said about the drive and all that.
Yeah.
On that aspect, no one deserves it more than him in terms of the managers left in the competition, because of what he's going through, what he's putting himself through on a day-to-day basis, even when before the World Cup, even during. And again, as a neutral, if England don't win it, good luck. I'd like to see Holland, because again, Holland growing up, total football and all that, the Bergkamps, the Gadavis, the Dubuque brothers, and Van der Sar, and Van Nistelrooy and Van Bronckhorst, Van Persie.
Yeah.
All these players that must roll your tongue. You just think of them roll your tongue. For my lifetime, obviously go back. You got Johan Cruyff.
Yeah, Van Basten,
Gullit. Yeah, Van Basten.
Yeah.
Historically, again, going by all that, it's about time Holland do get some achievement on the international stage. And what better way in these circumstances to do it in?
Absolutely, Ryan. Absolutely. And, with Van Gaal, you say about, what he's been through. He lost his father at the age of 11. He lost his first wife as well. The losses he's had to endure. And I saw on Twitter, I was screenshotted on the WhatsApp a few bits of the translation of Van Basten's opinion about Van Gaal's team at the half-time of the United States game, and I was watching that game live. Where Van Basten was saying, if this is the way we're going to play, he said, when we come up against somebody that can actually play football or actually attack us, then we're going to be out on our ear. But it's it's just an opinion from the best analyst that's around in the Netherlands, and a career that was cut short, unfortunately. But again, remains arguably the greatest striker this country's ever produced. He's just absolutely amazing. And it's just, I was privy to, to be able to understand Cruyff, Bergkamp, and Van Basten in their own mother tongue. It's a privilege for me. It really is, because in the case of Dennis Bergkamp, I only ever heard him speak English, and it was like, okay, good enough, fine. But when you arrive in his country, and I'm privileged to live in his hometown and speak his mother tongue. When you listen to him in his mother tongue, it blows your mind. It literally blows your mind, because you think, wow, he says that and he means that. And it's the same with Cruyff as well. I mean, there's a great quote by Cruyff. I think I said it in the last video, but it's so good. I'm going to have to say it again. When he was explaining his diamond formation, I think the video is on YouTube with English subtitles, and he said that naturally, when you call for help and you want help, you naturally think, oh, I've got to go towards that player. He said, when you help the player the most, if you walk away from the player and you create space on the pitch where he can pass the ball to, or give a good pass, or create an attack. And, the thing with, as you say, about the great Dutch players of the past and now, the biggest difference is character. They're different characters from different generations. Van Hanegem, Cruyff, Neeskens, Van Basten, Gullit, Rijkaard, and then you've got the class of 2022. So it's the same country, same ethics, same way of explaining things, same formation, normally a 4-3-3, although Van Gaal has 5-3-2, 3-5-2, that kind of thing, but the traditional 4-3-3, sorry. But you see the difference in character, and they're slowly getting back, and be interesting to see what Koeman does as well. So I'm hoping that both England and the Netherlands do well. But if they meet each other in the World Cup final, I don't know what.
There's no way to happen now.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I honestly, and I mean that. What I mean by that is to elaborate for people that know me on this channel. When I said I don't know what I'm going to do, I mean I don't know where I'm going to watch the game. I don't know how I'm going to feel. And when you're obviously, I would want England to win that game. I would make it clear to people, if England play the Netherlands, I would want England to win that game. But it still remains very strange when you're born and raised in another country. You're born and raised in your country, and then you move to the other one, and you've lived in the other one. I'm not too far off, half and half, really. Half born and raised in one and living half in the other. And even when they've played in friendly games, Ryan, it's a strange feeling. I think it's happened 3 times in all the years I've been here. I think 2 of them were friendlies, one at Wembley, one in Amsterdam Arena that was called back then, and also the Nations League game in Guimarães. And it's a strange feeling. I mean, people have often asked me, they said, oh, who do you want to win and all that? And I said, look, I just hope for a good game of football. That's because that's what you want. But if we're talking about a World Cup final, I might go out for a walk. I don't know. Because,
I want out.
Yeah, well, what I mean is I'm still British. I have family that live in Britain. I have friends that live in Britain. I want Great Britain to do well. I haven't left with I'm here now, see you later. I left to be able to crack on in life. And you go to another country where you become successful over time. But it's not as if I've gone and see you later. You still want people to do well. I mean, when I see and keep a close eye on things, and how the country, we do so many good things well, Great Britain. We really do. We can be proud of so many things. But we could also do so many things better. And the first step to that is realizing that we're not perfect. We've just got to tweak a couple of things, and we've just got to they have a levelling up secretary. I don't exactly know what they do, but just north, south, east.
Same here.
Yeah, north, south, east, west. Like, for example, I'm from London. Everybody's welcome. I've always been pro-immigration, and I always will be, especially living abroad and speaking different languages. But it's as if everybody goes to London. We've also got great cities such as Birmingham, Nottingham, Liverpool, Leeds, Manchester, Newcastle, Southampton. We've also got some wonderful places. So we need to hold our head up high and be proud. And be very interested in the coming days, and very, very excited.
Just before we get on to England and get your thoughts on it properly, the upsets, as I mentioned before, Japan won their group. They were in the group of Germany, Spain, and Costa Rica. That was it. Costa Rica, just for me, against Spain, too much respect, and got pummeled and got shown up for, and made Spain look better than what they've turned out to be since then. Because Germany, Spain v Germany, it was about 50-50. It could have gone either way. And then obviously Japan, after the first half, Spain come out, Japan come out. One little tweak in terms of the substitution. One of the players I was keeping an eye on was Doa, the number 8 for Japan, played at Freiburg. Yeah. The difference he made in that he makes in that team when he plays more balance, and the link up between the defence and the midfield and the attack. Sorry, is so much more. It's so much more than what they have lacking when he doesn't start, or he had to go off through substitution or whatever.
He's played for Groningen.
Yeah, and but I said I did a stream for the Germany-Japan game, or whatever way around it was. And I said before the game kicked off, I said it'll be whoever wins will be 2-1. So I got that right, sort of. But I said everyone's writing off Japan, and I don't get why, because they're no mugs. Look at some of the players in that team. The Minaminos, Tomiyasu, we know obviously from our Arsenal roots at the moment. The captain Yosinda. Ex-Southampton player.
I believe Maritomo Yoshida, I believe.
That's it. Yeah. Tongue-tied. And there's a couple of players from Celtic that have been doing really well, and I think SPL as well. And I said, this Japan team, and Japan in general, are no mugs. They qualify for the World Cup every 4 years as well. Most of the 9 times out of 10, once in a blue moon, they don't qualify. But this team is no mug. They went to prove me right. They went 1-0 down, and it looked a bit dodgy at one point. But they held their own. They stayed in it, and then they got the equaliser. And then as soon as they did that, as soon as they scored the equaliser, you could see straight away the response was that they're up, awake, alert, and they could smell blood they could smell the German blood. And of all people to score, It's a fantastic goal because the ball comes over, he takes it down with a velvet touch, like tips it down and runs with it against Rudiger, and then absolutely latches it past Neuer. Neuer's near post. And Neuer's no louch either. He's a big guy in terms of height.
Mm.
He's an ex-Arsenal player. Never played for us.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
Wenger signed him, loaned him out all the time. Never played for us. And he does like, of course he does. I was like, bloody hell.
yeah.
But
Like
I was so happy for Japan because that was everything.
Yeah. Like with Junichi Inamoto all those years ago.
Don't stop me on that one.
Yeah, no, but for example,
load him out.
The culture of Japan as well. I mean, I mentioned Doan playing for Groningen. I mean, I was listening to their anthem and I thought to myself, their anthem, if ever an anthem describes the people, that's it, isn't it? Calm, serene, respectful, pride. I'm thinking it's amazing, absolutely amazing, and it's just I think they acquitted themselves really, really well. Japan, They really did, and they've made so much progression. They really have, and people will say about the penalties, but they can be very, very proud. They really, really can. And as time's ticking on, Ryan, I just wanted to mention Belgium quickly before I speak about England. This might be controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. How can you be manager of Belgium if you have no command of French and no command of Dutch? How? I
never got in the first place. It made no sense because he'd just been sacked by Everton like a month prior. It just made no sense to me.
No, but even the players he left on the bench, Jeremy Doku is a very good player for Rennes. Yeah. Hans van Aken, Bruges, Charles de Ketelade. These are very, very good footballers. And I say to my colleagues as well, I said, how would you feel if you turn up for international duty? You've got your suitcase, you get to reception and you say hello to everybody in your mother tongue and you greet people and give them a hug, and you have a manager coming up to you giving you instructions in an international language that you might not understand. But that I would be flummoxed by that. I would be flummoxed by it. I think I would say to my manager, look, I'm sorry, I'm here to represent my people, and it starts with communication in the language of the country. Yeah. And I just think, Belgium are after Van Gaal already. I saw Vincent Kompany was linked. They just need to go back to basics. Who's the best manager in the Belgian league? Go after him. Go after it. Just keep it simple. As I say, the last 8 all have managers from their country. So every country who are now contemplating a foreign manager, that it can be done with one of your own, and also it means more. Do you really think that Morocco would be as exuberant as they are if they had a foreign manager? Do you really think they would be? Do you really think that they would be partying on the streets and showing love and affection to their fellow man and draping themselves in their flag and saying the things and singing the songs they sing? Do you really think they would be doing the same thing if they had a foreign manager? I don't think they would. When it's one of your own, it also means more. Because what people forget, Ryan, is that international football is supposed to be the best of what one country has against the best of what another country has. And when you start blurring the lines and when you start mixing it up, you have to ask yourself, what is the point? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like, for example, you take Portugal last night, right? Pepe and Otavio were both born and raised in Brazil. They didn't arrive in Portugal as young children. They left Brazil as adults. 17, 18, 19, they are adult men. And they went to supply their football trade in Portugal, become naturalized, and play for Portugal. Now, if we've spoken about the football gods, we have. Can you imagine a final Brazil against Portugal? How are Pepe and how are Otavio going to feel that day? Because if I'm Neymar, or I'm Richarlison, or I'm Lucas Paqueta, all I have to say to wind up one of those two is, "You're one of us. Shouldn't you be wearing yellow? You're one of us. What are you doing?" And I mean, I'm all for sportsmanship, but again, I just find it. I mean, I know it's a very, very grey area, but when you've got players choosing minutes over honour, that's where it's gone wrong. Where it's no longer about the honour, it's about the minutes. Oh, I get minutes playing for them. I wouldn't get minutes playing for that country. But then the people that burst out in tears when singing the national anthem because of the pride of the people, and I think the football gods, I think they're lining it up where if it does turn out to be a Brazil-Portugal final, a penny for Otavio's thoughts and a penny for Pepe's thoughts as well, because they're not young children, Ryan, that went with their family from Brazil to Portugal. They're adult men. And I know society has changed, but I mean, I would be eligible. I mean, it's too late for me to play any kind of professional sport, but I would be eligible for eligible for England. I would be eligible for Northern Ireland, as my mother was born there, as my grandparents were born there. I'd be eligible for the Netherlands because I've been here 16 and a half years. But I am what I am, and that's it. This is it. And I suppose with international football, it's the lines are blurred, but I just think it means more when it's purer, when it's meant, when it's from the heart. It means more, and people can also identify with that, which is the most important thing, and it incentivizes the next generation. And before I sign off, I wanted to touch on England, Ryan.
Yeah.
We've got a chance against France if we believe, if we believe and don't. But I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a Jamie Vardy for a match like this? Wouldn't it be wonderful to help Harry Kane with bringing on a Jamie Vardy or a Tammy Abraham or
Ivan Toney, for example,
or starting a James Maddison? Having options at the back, for example. Harry Maguire gets a bad rep in the Netherlands. They don't understand how he's classed as the best.
I've seen the videos of Wesley Sneijder and all that.
Yeah. Well, my response to colleagues is he's not. It's because he's part of the inner circle. He's part of the inner circle of Southgate. That's what it's about. And I also say Chris Smalling and Tomori playing for AC Milan and Roma. How would they get on together? I think they could have a good partnership. Lewis Dunk at Brighton is a good centre half. But you see the small details. I think it will go to penalties. England France.
No.
Yeah, I think it will go to penalties. And for as bad a rep as Hugo Lloris gets, he's a brilliant goalkeeper, and I think that France will win on penalties.
Oh God, I can't do.
I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I mean, I said that Brazil would win it, and I'm sticking to that. But I also said that Tunisia and Uruguay would be the surprises. Uruguay were the biggest disappointment for me this World Cup.
Denmark as well. I think I thought I'd throw them in as well because they just didn't turn up. Even Eriksen to the point it was like all that build up to the World Cup. In terms of Denmark, obviously Eriksen making the remarkable return after what happened last year. And every game was so flat for them. They had nothing. They had nothing going. No attacking threat really. And Eriksen's just there in the middle thinking, "What do I do? I can only do so much here." And obviously, he came back and bit them on the backside because obviously they fell out. They fell out and they finished bottom of their group. Even what was it? We've had Senegal. I know obviously Song. I believe he's resigned as well from his post in Senegal.
Cissé's resigned, has he?
What's Cissé? Song from Cameroon.
From Cameroon.
Cameroon, sorry,
Yeah.
can't remember
I
if
must,
he's
I must
resigned
give,
since, but
I must give a
even
shout out to Youssef Sabali. What a defender he is!
yeah,
Brilliant. He plays for Real Betis. I think it's brilliant. I'd love us to sign him in, not on the basis of a World Cup, but
no,
he also
just
played for Lens. You don't play for Lens if you're a bad footballer. He's got good experience in La Liga with Real Betis. I like Youssef Sabali, Yavad El Yamik of Morocco as well, playing for Valladolid. Also played for Vida Casablanca, I believe, and also David Galindez, the goalkeeper of Ecuador. I think is really good. And with Uruguay, for all the tactics, for all the modules,
the experience.
but you need goals. You need goals, and you take off the guy that scored 2 goals, Alacasieta.
3 players, yeah.
Yeah, you take off Nunes and you take off Suarez. But Nunes is not a team player.
No,
And
I realised that Liverpool.
I was watching the Uruguay-Portugal game, and I don't get angry with substitutions, but when he took Godin off, I shouted, "What are you doing? Unless he's injured, what are you doing? What are you doing?" And so, I mean, Uruguay-Portugal in 2018 goes down in my personal top 5 best World Cup games I've ever seen for many different reasons. And then 4 years later, I'm thinking Uruguay, just a massive shame. But I'm going to leave you with a final prediction. I think it will be a repeat of 1998, but I think the 1998 final. But this time, I think Brazil will be victorious and win that 6th title. What do you think, Ryan? What's your prediction for the final?
In terms of England's side of the draw, in terms of our half of the to the final, I think whoever wins on Saturday between us and France, whoever wins that game, will be in the final. Because I think whoever's in the semi-final between Portugal and Morocco, because again, I think Morocco might get to the semi-final myself, because everyone, no matter how far they're getting in this competition now, quarter-final, it's their first time. They're still underestimating them because because Portugal won 6-1 last night against Switzerland. Who just, for whatever reason that we don't know, only they know, they didn't turn up. And this was a Portugal side without Ronaldo, by the way. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Whether gone off again, something's clearly gone off there. He's been dropped. He's not happy about it. But in the meantime, we've seen a more united Portugal, more free flowing Portugal, where players are actually allowed to play to the other teammates, not just one person. And we saw the guy that started ahead of him, that plays for Benfica. Of course, a hat trick, the first hat trick of the World Cup. But young lad, first starting the World Cup, bang, boom, and that would have grinded Ronaldo. But as we saw, he sort of came out to the fans, thanked them, and walked off. Didn't even celebrate with his teammates, and that says a lot about the man himself. And look, we've seen the interviews as well. We've seen all that go off as well recently. But I still think Morocco, they showed yesterday, not just in the tournament now, but yesterday they went up against a Spain side massively favoured here in the UK. By the way, Spain were in the bookies and all that, and by the media. And they just went, okay, we've got a game plan and we're going to stick to it for 120 minutes. If we can nick a goal in the process, we will. If we're not, we'll take the pens, and we'll still do it. And they did. We'll take our chances and penalties, and it worked out for them. So I think Morocco will go to pens myself, I think, and Morocco just do, because of the bounce off the last night's game, that will feel even more confidence going to that penalty shoot and go, you know what, we can do it again, and they'll put another shot there. Become the first ever North African side to reach the semi-final of a World Cup.
Yeah, the first African side to reach a semi-final of a World Cup.
I'm just using the words of everyone else. I just don't want to upset anyone, but that would be huge, not just for North Africa, but for Africa in general. That would be absolutely enormous.
Yeah, massive.
And I think, And as I said, I think whoever wins it of England and France to get to the semi-final against us, I think, will be Morocco. Over that, no matter what the even 9 minutes or 20 or pens, I think France and England will just have enough to get past Morocco, just by skinning their teeth. Again, it'll be a very tight contested because it's semi-final period of a World Cup.
Yeah, you got one shot, but I
Yeah.
think Morocco would be happy with that one shot.
Yeah,
You know, they've got one shot. I mean, if it is, I think the final four will be the Netherlands, Brazil, France. Well, I'd like to say Morocco as well. When I refer to Portugal, we're talking about the football gods, of course. But I think that'll be the final four, and they've got that one shot, like Uruguay had that one shot in 2010. Like you know, and they had 4 of their players out. If they score, if those 4 players start, it's a Uruguay-Spain final.
oh yeah. I know. But yeah, to cut the long story short, I think it's going to be Brazil definitely in the final. I can't see anyone. I'm not really taking notice of the South Korea game because they thumped South Korea, but South Korea just went instead of playing like Morocco did against Spain and being sensible as a team, defend as a team, as a unit, and try to counter attack Brazil every now and then. They just went all gun ho, and it's just you're going gun ho against a team like Brazil with all the players they have. We've mentioned before. You're asking for trouble, and they got. I remember the game was on. I'm upstairs doing something as the game's kicking off. As I'm coming down 10 minutes into the game, brothers chatting down, don't bother, game's over 2-0. I'm like, okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Like,
but they're wonderful goals and a great goal from South Korea as well. I mean, people will say it's consolation, but like with the Mexican free kick, that will be in the mix for goal of the tournament.
Yeah, I got Sam in the chat as well. There's a question just before we drew back things up, but I was get Sam's comment. It's nice to see James Rowe again. I think England will lose. It's the first good team England are meeting, and that's when you need a measure of a clue. And again, I've said this countless times.
Sam also knows. Great minds think alike. You can't win a World Cup without tactically having to perform at some point. And I mean, it could have all gone south against Colombia 4 years ago, and Colombia had a very good manager in Pericamon, and we won on penalties. But I think that Sam also makes a very good point. You know, from Beckenbauer to Lippi, from Del Bosque to Zagallo, they all do something at some point to get their team to the next round.
Yeah, they're all tactically aware and had that nous. That if something was going to go, if they felt the game was getting away from their team, they'd change something.
Yeah.
I've said this since the semi-final, after that World Cup 4 years ago, basically in general, and I said it last year. Every time he comes up against someone that can tactically outdo him, that has a nous, he gets found wanting. Every time, without foul. Belgium twice at last World Cup, the group stage and the playoff. Croatia in the semi-final, we were leading.
Yeah.
He didn't have to change anything. And when the Croatian manager counteracted it, he just sat there and watched it all fall apart. Last year, the entire Euros, no one really tested. Germany, that was like the beginning of what they're doing now. To say they were no real challenge. We had Ukraine, in Italy for the quarterfinal. Again, with the players we have, it was no real challenge. Denmark provided the challenge, but again, that was more on the bounce of wanting to do it for Eriksen because of what happened with Eriksen.
Yeah.
But we still managed to pull through that in a final on home turf. 2 minutes.
1-0 up.
1-0 up.
Being 1-0 up.
He doesn't have to change anything, and he changes it. And he sees he made a mistake, but he just sits back and goes, staring at the stars. And I was like, and then in the penalty shootout, minutes before penalty shootout, he brings on 2 players just before the end of extra time But in the penalty shootout, makes not just brings them on to take the penalties. Basically, that shows his hand that I'm taking penalties on home turf. To give and I slated him for this to put Bukayo Saka, who wasn't even like players went up to him and said, I'll take one. He went to the players and went, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
So go to the youngest player in your squad and go, you're number 5. No matter what, you're number 5. You could potentially take the penalty that wins or loses us this final. The pressure you're putting on someone like that, and then the backlash we saw.
Well, we hear it now.
Taking my Arsenal hat off here, I can never forgive him for that.
No, and also if you look at the images, I mean, I've been to 3. It doesn't happen at Europa League games, but it's happened twice this season. At Villa and at home to Fulham. You've got sitting next to the away end in the clock end, like I did. There were fans singing to Bukayo Saka, "You let your country down." And we, on the occasion at Fulham, I said to the guy who was singing it, and he had a baseball cap and was quite disguised. I said, "What were you doing when you were 19?" I said, "I bet you weren't taking a penalty in the European final, were you?" And then he shut up and didn't say nothing. I said, "Don't blame Saka." I said, "Blame Southgate for spending all of 15 seconds to convince him to take a penalty." I said, "An amateur manager doesn't even do that." I said, "If you go to penalties, it's who wants one, who feels confident. Right, you don't feel confident, go and stand over there. Just don't worry about it. Nobody's judging you. If you don't fancy it, just go away. Right, who wants it? Who would like it? What are we doing here?" And then, take your time with that. But I mean, obviously the disgusting abuse as well was just unreal. But as I say, for it to still happen now in the away ends at the Emirates, and I've seen it twice with my own eyes, with the Villa fan, I heard it, but I was too far away from him that he would hear me. And you know how the stewards are. This season with you can't say nothing, watch the game.
Yeah, exactly.
I was able to pull up the Fulham fan, but I couldn't say nothing to the Villa fan because I was too far away from him. But this is the consequence of that. But so you're going for Brazil France final, are you, Ryan?
Brazil France or Brazil England? Whoever wins on Saturday night is in that final with France.
Okay.
And whoever's in that final with Brazil is going to lose. Yeah. I honestly think that because it's just Brazil have that there. And you're adding to the factor of Brazil and having that hunger in the first place. We've mentioned it already this stream, Pele, and his help and all that, and what they did the other night in sort of showing their support for him.
Yeah.
That's going to motivate them even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, might have to go through this, but I don't care because he doesn't like dancing.
But not that they need motivation, but it's great that Pele can see the love and affection he's got.
Yeah,
the football world community is with him to send their love to him, and I hope everybody's enjoyed it tonight, Ryan. It's been great fun.
Yeah, got one last question and we'll wrap things up. Sorry, it's from Colonel earlier in the chat. It's not World Cup related, but it's about Van Gaal, and obviously you've mentioned it before on other podcasts. There's a question for James. Do you feel Ten Hag is overrated? Because when Steve McLaren managed over there with FC Twente, the first time round, not the second time, the first time he was there, he won obviously the Eredivisie, and he says, I believe he believes Ten Hag is overrated himself. But he's asking for your opinion. How hard truly is it to win the Eredivisie?
Right. First and foremost, I respect everybody's opinion. And the question, the guy who's wrote it, I respect his opinion, first and foremost. I'm not going to say, no, that's not true. First and foremost, I respect their opinion because that's what it's all about. I think the Ten Hag has shown good managerial skills, not just at Ajax, but also at Go Ahead and also at FC Utrecht. At Go Ahead, they were staring into the abyss. It was possible they could have got wound up. And what happened? He managed to put a team together to get them promoted for the first time in 17 years. At FC Utrecht, they are desperate for European football, season in, season out, and he managed to provide it for them. At Ajax, he started very slowly, and he managed to get success and win Eredivisie titles. At Manchester United, his salary at Ajax, Brian, was €750,000 a year. And then you go from €750,000 a year to €11.8 million a year. Okay, managing one of the biggest teams in the world, but honestly, that's absolutely staggering. He's always been a slow starter. I think he will do himself a massive favour, Ryan, to try to win a trophy in his first season. If that's the League Cup, if that's the FA Cup, if that's the Europa League, if he can win a trophy in his first season, I think he will continue to improve. But as I say, everyone's got their opinion, and that's the beauty of football. I don't have a YouTube channel as much as I get asked almost every day. My work is always written with the players and managers I've spoken to at all different levels. But one of the things I love is, even in an online community, Ryan, you respect people's opinions. I see a lot of influencers that talk at people. You should think this, you should think that. They said this, they said that, this, that. No. They want the likes, they want the adulation, but you've got to give something that they don't. I mean, I see some of them, and I don't think they've interviewed any professional player or manager in their life. Now, I've interviewed over 400. Took me 6 years, but you have to know what you're talking about. You have to research. Like all the information I've given tonight, it's all come through research and being aware. Because it's important to always tell the truth. I mean, I'm not in it for the likes of the retweets. I'm in it to tell people what's actually going on, and to realise that it's a world game, and that's what you see with Morocco. So I hope that everybody enjoys the rest of the World Cup. I hope they enjoyed tonight, and we shall catch up soon, pal.
Yeah, definitely. And just to give put my 2 pence into the hat on this Ten Hag thing, for me, I don't think he's overrated. Look what as I say, you touched on Ajax. Not just domestic. You look at Ajax, the Champions League semi-final run, with seconds away from the final. And even when he got certain players started leaving, Ziyech straight away to Chelsea, and eventually Donny's gone to United, and even now he can't get the United team with Ten Hag at the moment, the way he'd probably hoped for when Ten Hag was announced. I think the Ronaldo situation's benefited him massively. Even before the interview, the way he's dealt with Ronaldo in general, in terms of, I started you for the first 2 games, it isn't working, I'm making this tactical switch, you're on the bench until further notice, unless I need you to start, and things like, if this tactical switch doesn't work, you're bench player. I'm trying to build a squad to win a title, multiple titles down the line, not just trying to build a team around a 37, 38-year-old player coming to the end of his time. For all due respect to Cristiano, he's a fantastic player, but again, we're seeing it in this World Cup, there's too much drama around him nowadays. And Ten Hag's seen that, and he's gone, put you to the side. And then Cristiano's then gone ultra diva mode and done his interview. And I think that's given it's very similar for me, from an Arsenal fan's perspective, when Arteta was dealing with the Premier situation last year. Behind the scenes, what was going on, the A knew what was going on, but Aubameyang didn't do the interview side of things, but he done enough for Arteta to go, enough's enough. You're out the team completely until further notice. Kept on messing about. Right, no armband. Kept messing about. Okay, you're at the door. I can't trust you no more. And I think the players seeing that and going, well, the manager, and it's in terms of Man United now, are the youngsters, especially the young lad from Argentina that looks up to Ronaldo. If he can do that to my idol, or this great legend that's done so much for the club in his previous stint, etc., Champions League and league titles, he can do that to me. So I need to toe the line now. And we saw that with Arteta and Aubameyang, and like the same situation. If he can do that to the club captain, and someone who's been so influential in the team before, obviously, the contract he got given beforehand, I've got to toe the line, and I'm going to be at the door as well.
Mm.
And we've seen the levels and performances from not just as a collective, but individual at Arsenal, how much they've gone on since Aubameyang, that whole situation was dealt with. And I think that's going to have to. I think we'll have the same effect at United now. And when Ten Hag was hired back in May, I said to my brother, if he's given the time that Arteta's been given, and the owners actually back him from day one and don't mess him about, United could be back in a few years, 2-3 years time. They could be back to being a dominant force in England and in Europe in terms of being competitive again, and not being that soft touch that they're becoming like we once were. But he does need that back in the moment. That even if that is under new ownership, if that does happen or not, and the Glazers, if it doesn't happen, the Glazers stay. They've got to stick by him. When the going gets tough, no matter what, learn from what we've done with Arteta. When the going got tough, and fans like myself, I hold my hands up. I got it wrong on about a year ago or so. Yes. They don't listen to the fans. They actually go, you know what? No, we believe in this person who's going to change our fortune for the better, and has the minerals to actually do that. And we're going to give him what he wants, not just with play personnel, but off the pitch in terms of whatever facilities he needs to facilitate him to get to this point. If they do, if the Glazers or whoever, if they do set up, if it's a big if with these Glazers, by the way, I don't trust their word no matter what they say. And I'm not even a United fan. Even if they do set up and a new owner comes in, that same owner then, even though it wouldn't be their manager, they have to back him. They have to give him the opportunity and see what happens. Because what's the point of hiring someone like Ten Hag and to treating him like old other managers, just going like we've mentioned, Ben Van Gaal, and we saw Ole-Gunnar Solskjaer, and even David Moyes 7 months into a job, not really given the proper time. He was just going to bring someone in and hope for an immediate impact, like a turnaround straight away. You're not going to get it. You're asking for trouble, and it's just going to go capitulate, and you're back to square one again. You're looking for another manager or another caretaker manager or whatever. But you're going through the same routine over and over again. The circus needs to come to an end at some point, surely. But they need to realise we're clearly doing something wrong. What we've done wrong? Oh, this is what we've done wrong. Okay, we're going to address it. Boom, here we go. So yeah, as a final point, I don't think he's overrated. It's just people see the Udinese and they don't really see it for like they see the Premier League or whatever league, Bundesliga and all that.
It's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
It's an acquired, and also I've made this point on many occasions, but it's also really relevant before we sign off. The Netherlands, all clubs have to hand their accounts into the FA, the Dutch FA. If it's found that you are spending beyond your means regularly, you can receive sanctions which range from fines to points deductions to your professional license being revoked. And if that happens, you're put back into the amateur leagues. You imagine that happening in the Premier League. You imagine that happening. So therein lies the difference. You've got teams that have to hand in their books to the FA. You've got some teams that still play on AstroTurf. They want to make sure that everybody plays on grass. You've got to make sure that your house is in order. So, I've watched it firsthand for many years. I mean, I've seen the likes of Christian Eriksen. I've seen the likes of Cody Gakpo. I've seen the likes of Memphis Depay. And, all the names that have come through the years. Robin van Persie when he returned as well, Matthijs de Ligt breaking through, Frenkie de Jong breaking through, and Philip Cocu when he went to Derby County. So many stories for the years. And it's a proud football nation, and you know, they're proud of the Eredivisie. You know, it's not the greatest league in the world, but it's from the Netherlands and it's of quality. So nice to touch and sign off on that, Ryan. And I hope you have a nice evening, pal. And I hope everybody enjoyed it. And we shall speak again soon.
We shall indeed. Probably maybe next week in between the after quarterfinals and between the end, last game and the semi-final, let's touch base and see how how things played. If they played out the way we expected, or there's an upset, or this, that, and the other, maybe.
Who knows? Could even preview the final, maybe, especially if the Netherlands are in it. Who knows?
Yeah, especially if Netherlands. Imagine that Netherlands versus England. There you go.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be extremely busy if that happens, but I shall make time for you, my good friend. That'll be no problem at all.
Absolutely. But yeah, thanks, James, for obviously coming on and giving me some of your time tonight. I know we've gone on a lot longer than we were planning to, but hopefully you've enjoyed it. And I hope the guys in the chat have enjoyed it as well.
Absolutely, full of quality and fun.
Of course, yeah. And as I say, we'll sort something out soon. In terms of seeing me again, you're going to see me again in about 20 minutes' time, or just before the next 15 to 20 minutes, when because the Arsenal women are playing tonight against Juventus' women's team at the Emirates in the Champions League, and it's basically, I believe, if our team win tonight, we qualify. As in, one spot will be taken basically with 2 games to spare, because we've obviously beaten Lyon in the opening game 5-1, European champions. We won against Zurich at home, and then we had Juventus away. We drew 1-1, so we got 7 points out of 9 so far. So a win tonight would all but qualify us, I believe, with 2 games to go. And it's Champions League, so why not? And it's Arsenal. We ain't got no other Arsenal content because I'm not paying fucking £5 or £8, £9, £10 for a random friendly in Dubai tomorrow. No. No, so yeah, we're doing that. And then in terms of the weekend, Friday I'll probably do the watch-alongs for the World Cup, and Saturday as well if I've got the time. But especially definitely doing England, obviously England, France on Saturday, and then we'll play it by for the rest of the weekend. And yeah. Oh dear! I'll see you soon, guys. Again, thanks again, James. Sorry, and we'll hopefully chat again soon between now and
Friday. All the best. Really enjoyed it. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Everyone.
Bye.